Man, oh man, oh man, an absolutely dreadful second half does the Patriots in during their home opener against the Raiders, and we've got to look at everything that went bad, and that was a rough one. This is Locked On Patriots.
You are Locked On Patriots, your daily New England Patriots podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's happening? I am your host, Nick Cattles, covering the Patriots for the last 16 years, co-host of the Greg Bedard Patriots podcast with Nick Cattles, and a sports talk show host veteran. On this postgame show, the defense has one glaring issue all day long against the Raiders, and the offense simply vanishes in the second half. But first, we have to talk about a miserable second half for your Patriots and Mike Vrabel. We appreciate you joining the show, making us your first listen, and for being an everydayer. The Locked On Patriots podcast is a proud partner of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. The Patriots did almost nothing right in the second half. You know, after the first half, I felt like it was a solid half of football after a very, very slow start for the Pats. In the second half, not much rewarding as you watch this football game. The second half was miserable. It was dreadful. It was horrific. It was embarrassing. It was tough to watch, especially offensively, which we'll get to. But in this second half against the Raiders, the Patriots were outplayed. They were outcoached. They were out everything. Let's start defensively because I want to rev the motor up a little bit before I get into this offense and Josh McDaniels. This defense, the pass defense, the secondary, big play after big play after big play. The Raiders had 9. That's an absurd number. The Raiders had 9 plays of 20-plus yards in this football game. 9 plays of 20-plus yards. That is simply outrageous. That should never happen to an NFL defense. That should never happen to an NFL secondary. There's absolutely zero excuse for it. I know you didn't have Christian Gonzalez, who was your best player, but to give up 9 plays of 20-plus yards is absurd. That's high school type stuff. You can't do it. You just can't do it. And I thought that the cherry on top was at the very end of the game. The Raiders have the football, and you are desperate for a stop. Try to get it back. Try to save this game somehow, some way. And the Raiders are in a 3rd and 20. 3rd and 20. And Carlton Davis, who is your best cornerback on the field, the guy that you paid a bunch of money in the offseason to make a play when you need a play made. Now, I will give Davis credit in the first half, undercut the route by Brock Bowers, got his hands on the football, and caused a turnover, caused that pick. That was great. That was good stuff. But 3rd and 20, have to have it type stop. And for some reason, unknown to me, unknown to probably all of you, maybe even unknown to Carlton Davis himself, for some reason, Davis bites. He bites on the action. The slant and go, he bites on it. And he ends up allowing the receiver to get behind him to pick up, I don't know, what was it, 25, 26, 30 yards? I don't even know, because as soon as the football was caught, I try to save myself from throwing furniture. How do you give up a 3rd and 20? That is your veteran outside corner. That was one of your main targets in the offseason and free agency. You rely on him. You're playing man coverage on the outside, and he gets beat because he's irresponsible. He loses his eyes, and he gives up a gigantic gain down the field. That type of stuff can't happen. I understand that there's going to be a learning curve for some of the younger guys on this team. But Carlton Davis, you can't give that up. You can't give that play up. Simply put, that's excruciating. You had guys running free in the secondary all day long. Guys wide open. It wasn't like Geno Smith was having to fit the football in tight quarters. You had guys who were wide open downfield, 20 yards, 25 yards, 30 yards. just giving yards away, chunk play after chunk play after chunk play in the passing game for the Raiders. Just not even nearly good enough. And it didn't slow down in the second half. And then we get to the offense. The offense in the first half, short yardage, red zone, they struggled. They didn't execute as well as you want them to. But when you're sitting there at halftime and you have 199 yards and you've got 10 points, which should have been 13 points, thanks to your rookie kicker who missed his first kick, a 40-yard field goal attempt. 13 points and 200 yards at the half, that's not terrible. That's fine. You can live with that. You feel okay about that. But in the second half, this offense was as bad as we've seen it the past couple of years. This is one of the worst offensive halves that we've seen this team have in the last 3-4 seasons. And that says a lot when you had Alex Van Pelt last year and the Bill O'Brien borderline debacle in 2023. And this offense got about 70 total yards in the second half until that final field goal drive, which the Raiders were, they were, I wouldn't say allowing the Patriots to move the ball down the field, but they certainly weren't trying to stop or bury the Patriots. They wanted that clock to tick. If you take out that final field goal drive, you had about 70 yards of offense in the entire second half. I thought Drake Maye was erratic. I thought that his accuracy struggled from time to time. We had another Drake Maye game where you had some highs and you had some low lows. His footwork wasn't always consistent. He looked a little hesitant in the pocket at times. Again, he looked to scramble really quickly on a couple of occasions. So I thought Maye was up and down today. I thought he had a really good drive on that touchdown drive, a fantastic throw to Pop Douglas, a great throw to Hunter Henry over the top that Henry couldn't get his second foot down. He threw Kayshon Boutte open in that second drive. He had some moments, but he was up and down. Maye was up and down. And you had no commitment to the run in the second half. You had almost zero commitment to running the football in that second half. I think the Patriots ran a total of, 3 times? And one of those times was Pop Douglas on a jet sweep. So Josh McDaniels did not even want to run the football in the second half. He did not even want to try after witnessing that first half when they couldn't run the ball. You had offensive line mishaps in the second half. Miscommunications on the left side. That's not a shocker. Miscommunications on the right side between Micah Wenu and Morgan Moses. The Raiders played more games in the second half with their defensive line. They sent more blitz. And you gave up some pressure. And just overall, I thought the Patriots in the second half, a sloppy operation. The first quarter and a half or so, you didn't have a lot of penalties. You played a relatively clean game in the first quarter and a half. At halftime, I even tweeted at Nick C Radio saying that I thought it was a solid half. It was a good half for Terrell Williams, Josh McDaniels, and Mike Vrabel. I thought they coached a pretty good first half. Second half was a different world, and you completely fell off the rails. You had too many penalties. You had too many blown coverages. You had an offense that looked completely and utterly disjointed. That was a brutal second half, an absolutely brutal second half. And you would hope Mike Vrabel's stressed all week long. He has stressed the past couple of weeks about how crucial it is to win the second half in the opening week. If you win the second half, you usually win the game. And it's about conditioning. It's about keeping the clean operation. And there was a precipitous drop in offensive play and a precipitous drop in execution by this team in the second half, which is not what you want to see from a Mike Vrabel-led team. It was brutal, man. It was brutal. It was absolutely brutal. The offense suffered from a tale of two halves. And the second half was as bad as it gets. We're going to dive into what went wrong in that second half, why offensively the Patriots looked as bad as they did. That's coming up next as we continue with today's episode of Locked On Patriots, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right means cashing in. With football back, PrizePicks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes all in less than 60 seconds. You know, PrizePicks lately, it's been so much fun. It's a great way to stay locked in for the season. It's quick, easy, and honestly, it's one of the best ways to follow along with football. You can love checking projections like Josh Allen for more or less than 270 passing yards. And this week, you got max discounts. And let me give you one. How about Travis Kelce on September 14th? Travis Kelce next Sunday, over a half of receiving yard. Check out that max discount right now. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Hey, folks, are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use my limited time promo code TOUCHDOWN and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You can make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas you already needed. At first, you think it's too good to be true, but it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using my limited time promo code TOUCHDOWN for a limited time 25 cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code TOUCHDOWN. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. So the first half, you had 200 yards, roughly, and 10 points on the board. You missed the field goal. Andy Borregales, not the way you want your rookie kicker to begin his career. In the second half, though, nothing effective from this offense. They could not do anything against the Raiders defense, which is troubling because the Raiders defense, they're questionable at the second level. They lost to Landon Roberts early in this game, so they had to go to their depth. Their linebackers aren't very good. Their secondary is not very good, and you could not do anything offensively against them in the second half. This was a gigantic fail by Josh McDaniels. I thought he had a pretty good first half, if not good first half, and I thought his second half was simply atrocious. And you had inconsistent quarterback play, yes, and you had some bad execution with some penalties on the offensive line, a delay of game on Maye, which is just inexcusable. We saw that late in camp, some delay of game issues. Get the play in, get to the line of scrimmage, and get the snap off. So, yes, your quarterback was inconsistent today, but the play calling, the offense fell well short of expectations in that second half. I thought they had some things going in the first half, and it just fell apart. And Vegas got more aggressive. They got more aggressive defensively. They caused some havoc to your offensive line. They ramped up the blitzing, and I don't think that you responded very well against that blitzing. The offensive line, we saw this during camp. We saw this during the preseason, during the joint practices. The offensive line was, again, beaten by games up front, twists and all of that, right? You had a twist that got the best of Owenu and Morgan Moses at one point, which led to, a disastrous play and a pick. So you were getting beat by those games up front. You had some receivers drop footballs. You had Maye miss some throws. So your offensive line took a step back. The Raiders got more aggressive, got more confident. Your quarterback was erratic with his accuracy and missing some throws. And when he made some throws, your receivers dropped the ball or two. But the biggest issue for me in this game offensively is 0.0 run game from the Patriots. And that shocked me because I thought this team would be able and capable of running the football. You have an offensive line that's athletic. You have an offensive line that is a good run blocking offensive line. You have an offensive coordinator and a head coach who are dedicated and usually committed to running the football. You have three good backs. Stevenson's a good back. Travion Henderson's a good back. Antonio Gibson's a good back. You have three good running backs. And I thought for sure the Patriots would be able to run the football today, and they had absolutely nothing going with the run game. Nothing. Squadoosh. A big fat zero. In the second half, if my math is right, in the second half, the Patriots had 1 carry from their running backs. 1 carry. Stevenson and Henderson had 11 total carries in the first half. I believe they finished with 12. And I'll double check just to make sure, because maybe some of the stats I looked up right before this have been updated. But you had 11 carries in the first half between Stevenson and Henderson, and they finished with 12 carries. Antonio Gibson had a carry for 3 yards. So they had 1 or 2 carries from their running backs in the second half. They didn't have any commitment to the run game. Josh McDaniels looked at the first half. They were incapable of running the ball. And instead of saying, well, let's try to rework the run game, let's try to get going here a little bit, let's try some different looks, let's do something, let's try to establish the run, McDaniels, I thought, ran away from the run game in the second half, showed zero commitment to it. Now, some of that was due to, penalties on first downs, and you're looking at 1st and 15 and 1st and 20. You're not going to run the football very often when you're at 1st and 15 or 1st and 20. But I thought for sure that you would see some level of commitment to the run game in the second half, and you had none of that. They did not even try to run the football. And on the day, you had Ramondre Stevenson and Travion Henderson finishing with 12 carries and 42 yards. If you told me before this game that Henderson and Stevenson would combine for 12 carries and 42 yards, I would have told you you were nuts. And I would have also picked the Raiders to win the game. Because I'm telling you right now, this Patriots offense is not explosive enough. It is not talented enough to win games without a run game. They have to run the football. If you make this offense one-dimensional, you are just begging for problems. If you allow this offense to be one-dimensional, you're going to see what the Raiders did today. You're going to see that over and over and over again. Defenses are not going to be scared of the run game. They're going to pin their ears back. They're going to get aggressive up front. They're going to go after Drake Maye. They're going to go after this offensive line. They're going to go after the young left side of this offensive line, protecting Maye's blind side. And they're going to continually do it over and over and over again until the Patriots prove that they can run the football. This cannot be a one-dimensional offense. If this is a one-dimensional offense, we're talking, 5 wins, 6 wins, maybe. They cannot be one-dimensional. They have to be able to run the ball, whether it's Stevenson or it's Henderson or it's Gibson. I couldn't care less which running back on this roster can get it going, but it has to get going. And I didn't understand the split in snaps. In the first half, Henderson had 16 or 17 snaps, I believe. In the second half, Henderson was on the sidelines an awful lot. So what are we doing? Did you overuse Travion Henderson early in this game, and then you had to step back and not use him as much in the second half? Because if that's the case, plan it out better, Josh. Josh McDaniels should understand, all right, we didn't use him a ton in the first half, then we use him a little bit more in the second half. If we use him too much in the first half, we're not going to be able to use him as much in the second half. So I don't know. The snaps were almost 50-50 between Stevenson and Henderson in the first half. In the second half, Henderson was barely on the field. I don't get it. If you have a limit to Henderson's snaps, then even them out, balance them out better between the first half and the second half so you can use one of your most explosive players in the second half of the game. Not that it mattered, because not only was the run game a big fat zero for the Patriots, the screen game was awful. Their screen game was non-existent. And I thought a lot of the screens called were incredibly predictable. The Raiders looked like they knew exactly what the Patriots were going to do when they did it. They knew when a screen was coming. So the screens to the running backs did not work. The screens to the wide receivers did not work. So you don't have a running game. And then you don't have the part of your passing game, which could pretty much be a running game for you, right? Those short, quick, efficient passes like a tunnel screen to get 5 or 6 yards on a first down. They weren't able to do that either. So their early down offense stunk out loud. They couldn't run the ball effectively, and their screen game was awful, so there wasn't anything easy. They couldn't pick up any easy yards. And you're not going to win a lot of games if you're looking at that. Now, I did think Kayshon Boutte was terrific. He was terrific in the first half. In the second half, you didn't see as much of him. Raiders kind of put the clamps on him in the second half. And just this overall lack of explosiveness to your offense. That's what I saw. Again, just a lack of explosion. You didn't feel like they could pick up 30 yards, in a nice chunk play consistently. They couldn't give you a handful of explosive plays. They couldn't give it to you. The Raiders were full of explosive plays. Your defense was giving up a ton of explosive plays, but your offense could not get any explosive plays going. Other than that, things went great. If you can't run, you don't have a screen game, you don't have explosive elements to your offense. I didn't think there was a ton of exotic motion pre-snap from the offense. And the second half was it was dreadful. It was dreadful. Don't forget to click that thumbs up while you watch us live here. Locked On Patriots, live post-game. Patriots lose to the Raiders. Not a good game. A dreadful second half. So don't forget to like and don't forget to comment. Help us with that algorithm and subscribe. We're almost at 6,000 subscribers. There's a lot of these Locked On NFL shows that have a lot more subscribers than Patriots Locked On shows and stuff and episodes have. So let's change that. The Patriots, I know, very, very passionate fan base. I've rooted for this team my entire life. So let's get those subscription numbers up as well. All right, the Raiders enjoyed chunk play after chunk play after chunk play in the passing game. We'll talk about that and more as we address the defense next, as we continue with today's episode of Locked On Patriots, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. NFL season is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle between queues and login screens and prices jumping at checkout. It's frustrating. That's why you should use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Gametime is fast, easy, and backed by the Gametime guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the very best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price that you actually pay. You pull up Gametime, just a couple of taps, tap, tap. You see amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite NFL games as low as $100 in the app. It's super simple. Could even see the exact view from the seat before you buy. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. So the first half, after that first drive, the Patriots give up a touchdown on the first drive. Jalen Hawkins, flat-footed. Patriots, I don't know what they were doing. I did not like the play call. You had both Christian Barmore and Milton Williams dropping into coverage on a third down. Hawkins, again, just gets blown by, gives up a touchdown over the top. Bad start for the defense. But then, honestly, the defense for the rest of the first half was pretty much dominant. And I know we're going to look back after the miserable second half and say, that's such a thing of the past now, and it's in the rearview mirror. But I do want to say, the first half after that first drive, the defense, they played good football. They shut down the run, and they kept Brock Bowers to 3 catches, 35 yards. And I tweeted out at halftime that the Patriots did a really good job of limiting Brock Bowers offensively and also limiting Max Crosby's impact plays. I didn't hear Max Crosby's name more than maybe once or twice in the first half. I thought the offense did a really good job addressing Crosby, and I thought the defense did an excellent job addressing Bowers. Second half, completely different story. Crosby made 2 or 3 huge plays in the second half, and Bowers went off before he went out with a knee injury. He ended up with 100-plus yards in this game, 35 yards in the first half, and he ends up with 103 for the game. So you gave up almost 70 yards to Brock Bowers in the second half after doing a really good job on him. So you have to do better. You got to be more consistent from beginning to end. Now, there were a couple of issues in the second half of the defense. Number one, they did have some struggles when they played the 3-cornerback nickel package against the Raiders' run game. So when the Patriots went to their nickel package, the Raiders ran the football, and they were able to get some yards out of it. Not a ton, but some yards. And then when the Patriots went to their bigger personnel, the Raiders killed them with play action and killed them with plays down the field. So it was the Patriots were trying to figure out what personnel package was best for them in this game, and it felt like in that second half, no matter what personnel package they picked, they were going to get beat. Now, really, at the end of the day, the defense, I'll say this, the passing defense, again, way too many huge plays. I thought that was mostly on the secondary. And without Christian Gonzalez, we knew that there was going to be some issues in the coverage. But to give up 9 plays of 20-plus yards is egregious. And the Patriots showed some confidence in their corners. They played a lot of man coverage in this game. And guys were left wide open over and over and over again. They kept getting behind the safeties. They kept getting behind the cornerbacks. I thought you had some opportunities on third down to get off the field, and you weren't able to in big spots. I talked about the Carlton Davis play earlier in this post game. You just can't have it on 3rd and 20. It's a must-stop situation. You can't give that up. So I thought there were some third down daggers. There were some fourth down daggers. So just, pivotal plays, big plays that you need from your defense, they just could not collectively get it done. And that's how you fall short. You give up those big plays. I will give the Patriots defense credit as far as only giving up 20 points. You give up 20 points, you feel like you should win plenty of games in the NFL if your defense gives up 20 points. But again, your offense was so bad, especially in the second half, you only put up 13. Should have been 16, but, Borregales misses the kick. So it was just not good enough. They have to tighten up on the back end defensively. They have to tighten up because I thought their front seven played reasonably well. This game is not on the front seven. I thought the front seven played well. I thought Harold Landry had a good game. He was constantly in the backfield. He had 2.5 sacks, 3 sacks in this game. So I thought Landry was good. I thought Kayvon Chason gave some pressure in this game. I thought Milton Williams and Christian Barmore created some pressure from the interior defensive line like we hoped that they would when we look at this roster. I thought the front seven mostly played well. I mean, they were great against the run when you look at it in totality. Ashton Genty finishes with 18 carries and 35 yards. If you told me the Patriots held Ashton Genty to less than 2 yards per carry, I would say they'd have a great shot to win this game. Now, they gave up 366 to Geno because of all those huge plays that they gave up in the passing game, but they shut the run down and they gave up 20 points. I thought the front seven was pretty good. All in all, was pretty good. They were able to get pressure. They were good against the run. They made life miserable at times for Geno. But when they didn't get pressure, when the Patriots didn't get pressure and didn't get quick pressure and their defensive backs were kind of left on that island, that's when things went horribly wrong. And that's when they gave up all those big plays. It's like if they didn't get quick pressure and bother Geno and get him off his spot, you're going to give up 20 yards. That's how it felt. You're going to give up 20-plus yards on a pass play if you don't get to Geno within like 2 seconds. And that's a lot of pressure on the defensive line. Now, the Patriots were aggressive. I thought that they started to blitz their linebackers more instead of their cornerbacks. Early in the game, when they were blitzing their cornerbacks, that kind of led to some issues. There was one third down where they blitzed Carlton Davis. Jacoby Myers just slid right out for an easy third down conversion. The touchdown that began the game, you sent Marcus Jones on a blitz. You had Barmore and Williams drop into coverage. But I did think a lot of their blitz packages actually worked as the game went on. It's just that they got cooked from time to time, and that's something we have discussed. We've talked about that leading into this season. The Patriots defense is going to be more aggressive, and that means you can create some big plays, but it also means you're going to give up big plays. And we saw that today. You've got an aggressive man-cover defense, especially without Christian Gonzalez. You're going to give up some plays, and they gave up way too many plays. I could deal with 2 or 3 big plays. I'm not going to give up 9 plays of 20-plus yards. That has to be nipped in the bud quickly. You can't lack explosiveness on offense and allow the other offense to explode down the field over and over and over again. That is not a good combination. So, disappointing debut from Mike Vrabel and the Patriots, there's no doubt. Disappointing 2013 loss, a debacle of a second half. And we'll see how they recover. They got to go to Miami week 2. Miami was humiliated by Indianapolis today in Indy. So you have 2 teams coming off bad losses. Miami, an especially bad loss. But you've got to be better offensively. You've got to run the football. You've got to establish that. You can't be one-dimensional. You need Drake Maye to be more consistent. You need Drake Maye to get off to a better start than he did today. Again, his first pass of the day, air mails it to Pop Douglas. So again, early in games, he's a little too amped up. Figure it out. And defensively, hopefully you get Gonzalez back. But with or without Gonzalez, you can't give up the big plays. You just cannot give up the big plays. All right, that wraps up this edition of Locked On Patriots. Thank you for making us your first listen and for being an everydayer. Reach out to me on Twitter @NickCRadio. Don't forget to throw a comment in on the YouTube channel. Don't forget to hit that like button as well and subscribe. Thank you for making Locked On Patriots your first listen of the day, the NFL season. Finally here for your second listen, get a double dose of the Locked On NFL podcast. Tyler Rowland and Tony Wiggins do a fantastic job. You can check me out on Friday mornings, Locked On NFL podcast. That's cool. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Try to have a decent rest to your Sunday after watching that second half. We'll try to get it through it together, and we will talk about this team, this game all week long right here on Locked On Patriots. Don't miss a second of it. We'll talk to you tomorrow. I appreciate every single one of you.